when your agent sent you or whoever sent you the role for Lieutenant Dan, did you feel like that was a part that you really could relate to and wanted to play, having had this kind of close contact and sort of understanding of the veteran experience by doing so much work with them?
Definitely, definitely. I felt like teed up, you know, like
Yeah.
the work that I'd done in the 80s and the Vietnam veterans in my family and the Vietnam veterans I had met in Chicago and the efforts, you know, to support them and all of that. When Lieutenant Dan came along and I had the opportunity to audition for it, which was a full 10 years after I'd done all this work
Yeah.
in Chicago, I just felt like this was right. And luckily, so did the producers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. I guess it was about 10 years later that you founded the Lieutenant Dan Band. You mentioned that back in the day when you were in high school, you were acting and doing some rock and roll. So you always were a musician, obviously, or had that passion. But how did you decide to kind of bring it all together?
My whole band played a joke on me. And I was sitting in the studio by myself and I was just waiting, you know, to get started. And all of a sudden, I was wondering where everybody was. And all of a sudden, they all started walking in and they all had Lieutenant Dan wheels and Lieutenant Dan Hawaiian shirts and cigars and sunglasses. And they all walked in and it was really funny. And, you know, it was a great Halloween joke for me. Look, the band came out of USO work that I started doing after September 11th.
Okay.
On September 11th, when that happened, boy, I was impacted like so many of us were, and I wanted to do something
Yeah.
to help. So when we started deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan, I volunteered to go visit our troops and started doing that. I would just go on handshake tours, and I had some players that I played with for fun in Chicago. And I kept going on these handshake tours. I did 6 or 7 of them. And just every time I'd go on a tour, I'd say, what about letting me go on a band tour? So they eventually said yes to that, the USO. And we put a tour together. I called up my bandmates. It wasn't even a band at that time. It was just guys that I would play with for fun. And I called and said, hey, guess what? I think we can go on a USO tour.